It's for the tourists on the neutral ground. You're gonna get your tarp peeled up. It's for frat boys in their tents.
And that's when we all tell our wives, see y'all in a little while, and football season's here.
All right, I am so excited because I feel like I have like a member of the family now.
Well, you do.
In the studio. Bryan Batt, an American actor, producer, and author, best known for his role, many roles, but of course people know you from Mad Men. Of course, we'll get into that.
You do one TV show and then they know you, thank God.
Yeah, 2 SAG Awards, Broadway performer, author, entrepreneur, and an all-around good guy.
Why, thank you.
Bryan, how's the family?
Oh, everybody's hanging in there. We're doing okay. We just had a Crime Stoppers honored my brother the other day.
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
The J. Batt Award, which I was able to present, and it was just, he did so much good for the city, and I was so proud to be able to present that for him.
Well, okay, let's talk about Jay and his 2 lovely daughters, and Andre. I mean,
when Jay,
you're the uncle.
I am
You're
Uncle B.
You're the patriarch.
Yes. Well, when they were having their children, and I was not going to have children, he said, just think of them as yours too, and I have. But we have a great relationship.
Oh, I know they treat you as not only an uncle but a best friend too.
Yeah, it's great when your nieces call and say, "Hey, what are you doing? You want to go grab a bite, or let's go get a drink, or just want to hang out with you?" When I did something right.
Yeah, we were together at a wedding over the weekend, and it was great to see them so dressed to the nines.
Yeah, well, everyone was. It was a beautiful wedding.
So, growing up in New Orleans, the envy that I had was that your dad was part of Pontchartrain Beach.
Yes, my grandfather started Pontchartrain Beach way back in '28, and I wrote a book about it called Pontchartrain Beach: A Family Affair. And it was an interesting way to grow up with a roller coaster in your backyard.
Did you go like every day?
No. We would go, because if your parents owned a restaurant, you didn't want to eat the same restaurant.
But I would
your
ride
father's
the
a doctor,
Zephyr
you don't
every day.
hang out and get
I would ride the
prescriptions.
Zephyr every day if I could.
When I would go, I would do that, and I really enjoyed it. But it was kind of a litmus test to see who my friends really were. That if all they wanted to do was go to Pontchartrain Beach, then you don't want to climb trees and ride bikes and all that stuff. But it was an interesting, wonderful. One of my favorite memories was when we'd go as a family and we'd go to Valley High that's where we had most of our Easter dinners were at
Valley High, very special place
with Polynesian and Chinese food, and then we'd cross over to the bandstand and watch from there watch the fireworks.
Right. It was built like a deck of a ship.
A deck of a ship. Yeah. What was it called? Something like that.
Yeah, my dad was with WDSU for so many years, and they would do a lot of broadcasts from there. Just
your
a
dad
special
and mom,
time.
come on. They were in. I think they were in each other's weddings.
My mother stood in your mother's wedding, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah.
And that's why we got to know each other.
Yeah.
And that was Uncle Gail and
Well,
Aunt Gail.
Aunt Gail and Uncle John.
Sorry.
That's a
We'll edit that
whole
one.
other story.
Aunt Gail and Uncle Johnny.
Don't go bourbon on me.
No, that's right. I'm going rogue.
Don't go gnome.
So let's talk about some of the nonprofit work that you've been doing.
Oh, recently, just this last week, I helped with Hotel Hope's Hope Fest. Hotel Hope is a wonderful organization headed by Sister Mary Lou Specha, and it's right on Martin Luther King and Broad, and it's this old motel that she acquired, had it renovated, and it's for homeless mothers and their children. And they can be there about 3 months, and in that time, they get all this counseling. The children get their meals are taken care of. They get counseling. They get tutored, medical care, everything they need to get back on their feet and be a productive member of society and take care of their children.
Yeah, and I know the work that you put into that event.
The event it was great. It was at Dickie Brendan's Audubon Clubhouse, and it was a gorgeous night. One of the 2 weeks where the weather is so beautiful in New Orleans, you don't want to be anywhere else because it was just one of those
It's a magical
nights.
setting.
Oh, you look right out over all the oaks and the food was great. It was fantastic. There wasn't a line for drink or food. The way they set
Flows
everything
well.
up, it flows well.
Yeah.
But you spread everything out.
Yeah. So, did you ever think you'd be an author?
No.
And you've now written several books.
3 books. It really was organic. I started writing these short stories, and it was kind of therapeutic. And I let a friend read them, and they go, "These are funny. You ought to give them to," at the time, a friend of ours, partner was a book agent. And he read them and thought, oh, these are great, but short stories, I don't know. And then when Mad Men hit, he called and goes, I think I can get you a book deal. So I got the book deal,
amazing how that
but then
works.
you had to finish it. And then because originally I was just writing for the fun of it. No,
Your process was you were actually at the keyboard, or were you?
Oh yeah, no, I was
taping your thoughts?
No, I was typing them, and then I got stuck. And my friend Joe Keenan, who is a wonderful multi-Emmy Award winner for Frasier, he wrote a lot of the Frasers. I said, well, how did you? He goes, just write the stories like you're writing a letter to a dear, dear friend that you haven't seen in a long time, and you have to explain everything to them, and then let your editor, don't edit yourself, get it all out there. So that was an impetus to finish it, and then we did but at the same time, right around that time, right when I was going to sign the book deal for that, a young lady came into the store who was an editor at Random House, and for the design, area, and she goes, "I love Hazelnut. I love your store. I love your aesthetic, whatever." And she goes, "If you write a book about interiors, what would you do? Come pitch it to us." And I'm like, "I'm not a designer. I've designed homes. I've helped with my mom's and my brothers and my sister-in-law and other friends, but that's not the shingle that I hang on the door." But I did. I walked in and I pitched the idea. I said, I'm just going to take pictures of beautiful homes and tell you why I like it and my philosophy. And some of my philosophical design tips are, don't be afraid of color. What did it ever do to you? If it looks right, it is right, and paint your house in the colors that you look good in. I remember one time this color came in, this kind of acidy green, apple green, and oh, I love this color. It's so pretty. And I painted the bathroom, little bathroom in New York, this color. And the next morning I walked in, and I looked in the mirror I looked sick in the room. And I was like, nope, I don't look good in this color. We got to fix that. So, but it was, and they liked it, and they bought it. And as I'm walking out of there, the book agent said, Bryan, be careful. You're biting off a lot right now. And it's like, oh, it's fine. And that was the hardest book to do.
Was it?
That was because we had to do all the photo shoots. You had to set up the photo shoots, and, be in the trenches. And it was harder. But now
Literally going around to all these
all
homes.
the different homes, scouting the homes. And it was very eclectic. We wanted to have a whole, it wasn't just this pretty old French New Orleans, style. It had a complete myriad of styles. And then the third book, about Pontchartrain Beach came about because the tricentennial was coming up, and no one had ever written a book about Pontchartrain Beach. And as we get older, less and less, fewer people remember it.
Yeah.
But when my mother passed, we were going through her boxes in the garage. We thought we were going to find a Lindbergh baby. I'm not kidding. I was like, she kept everything. Letters from me from camp. I think my brother. It was crazy. It was sweet, but we could only go through a certain amount, my brother and I, and then we'd start to tear up and would have to stop. But we found these two boxes, these big boxes, that had not been opened since Pontchartrain Beach had closed. And they were from my father's office. And it was all his memorabilia, all the pictures from his walls, everything. And I found, and that's what was the idea. And also that year, they introduced the big float, the Pontchartrain Beach float in Endymion.
Oh, yes.
And my cousin Kevin texted me with the picture because I was out of town. I couldn't see it. And he goes, it's like Uncle Johnny's right here. It's like, this is so beautiful. And it was, made my heart, so that's why we wrote the book.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting thing because I kept on saying, who's the graphic editor? Who's going to do the design? And then the publisher was like, oh, don't worry. We have someone to do that. And we're getting closer to it. And I'm like, well, where I got to meet with this person because it's a visual book. There's all these great pictures. It's got to be colorful. It's got to have ideas. And they said, well, no, we just have a copy editor. And I'm like, that isn't what you told me. So within 3 weeks, I had to put together, when you're in fourth grade or fifth grade, you make a book. You do the design. That's what I had to do with exactly, what font, how I angle the pictures, what's going to be a full bleed, what's going to go 2 pages, what's everything.
It was almost like self-publishing.
Yes, it really was.
That's amazing.
But it was a lesson, make sure you get it in writing.
Yeah. The book, She Ain't Heavy, She's My Mother, was the first?
The first.
The first. And that very special book. My family has enjoyed that. Every now and then go back into it because
I did it.
Gail Batt.
She was a force of
an
nature.
iconic lady.
Iconic lady. She, I adored her. I adore her. Just recently at the Tulane Book Fair, the New Orleans Book Fair. Cheryl Andrew does an incredible job.
Cheryl Andrew and
it's amazing. And she had just
Walter
lost her
Isaacson
mother
have
right
done
before
wonderful.
the book fair, and she was there and did the whole thing. I don't know how she did it, but Michael Lewis was one of my brother's good friends from Newman, and Jay and he were at Newman together, and his brother and I were in the same class together, and he wanted to do. They asked him to do a panel, and he said, "Well, I don't have a book out. I don't have a new book." And he said, wait. He wasn't able to be in for Jay's funeral. So he says, "I want to do Bryan's book. We'll do it together. And we're just going to talk about New Orleans." And I'm like, well, okay, if Michael's going to do it, fine. And then he said, "We're going to talk about your book." I'm like, "Michael, my book's 15 years old." And he read it. He'd not read it. And he read it, and in the places, I will say this, I'm not bragging, but we had overflow.
Yeah.
Now, it was because of Michael. I mean, because Michael's this huge, famous author.
I would
and
say
writer.
both of you.
Well, we had so much fun, but he said in front of this whole crowd, he's like, "Bryan, you're a natural writer. You have to continue writing. Write another book." And I said, "Well, I have an idea." He goes, "You heard it here." That's like,
Hear it here first.
I was like, "Here's
New Orleans
your
Book
famous
Fest.
last words."
That's great. Well, good point about the New Orleans Book Festival and,
It's
and what they've done.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's like one of the best in the country, and
Yeah,
it's
both.
only 5 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, what a testament.
Cheryl Andrew and Walter Isaacson,
Walter
have
Isaacson
really,
are just
really
amazing.
made it work. All right, talk about your current projects. What's happening?
Well, I just wrapped a wonderful film called The Statement, and it's directed and written by Tom McCarthy, who won the Oscar for Spotlight. He also wrote and directed The Station Agent.
Spotlight was the story of the Boston
Priest
Archdiocese.
Boston Globe,
issue,
yeah. And then he also did The Station Agent, which Patty Clarkson was nominated for I think a Golden Globe, and he's just a wonderful, wonderful director writer. It was the most wonderful film experience I've ever had, and a lot of the other actors on the projects thought the same thing, and also in the cast is Paul Rudd, Paul Giamatti, John Turturro, Amy Ryan, Evan Peters, Michael Cerveris, Dylan Baker. I mean, it's just the best, and I was so honored to be a part of that.
Wow, what a cast!
And it's
it's in post production now.
It's in post production, so who knows when it's going to come out?
Yeah.
But with that pedigree, I'm
fantastic.
knocking wood that it's gonna, because everyone was so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And he was just he thanked the stand-ins by name at the end of filming, and Amy and I were talking like, "Have you ever seen anybody do this?" And we're like, "No, I've never seen anyone do that." And I just thought, wow.
That sounds like a great
It was
teamwork.
It was
that
a
really
joy
came
to
together.
go to set every morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is I did texted Tom one day and I said, "I'm leaving my trailer in Chalmette right now." I never thought I'd ever be typing that, but
That's good.
but it's beautiful. I mean, the studio is fantastic, and it's when you leave your house at 5:30, there's no one on the streets practically.
Straight down St. Claude.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything in New York?
No, but there might be something in London. So
good.
we were, it looks like I might be in London doing a new musical this summer
Very nice.
for my friend Harry Shearer.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fun.
When you know more about that, or
I will.
when
I
you
will
can
let you
say
know.
more about it, you can come back, right?
And we're also I wrote a play called Dear Mr. Williams that I did at Le Petit several years ago, and they finally worked all the details out with the agents that represent Tennessee Williams' estate, because 1/3 of the play is Tennessee Williams' words from his plays, his movies, his short stories, his poetry, interviews, you name it. And they had to figure out how to do the rights, and then 2/3 are my words, and it took like 4 years for them to iron this
Well,
out.
we saw a production of that at Le Petit.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating.
Well, it was exhausting. I have to get in shape to do that again, because it's an hour and 40 minutes of just me blabbing.
It's just you solo on that stage.
It was the most exciting, but also the most frightening thing at the same time.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful what you wish for.
Entrepreneur, you and Tom have
Hazelnut
operated Hazelnut.
for 23 years.
Tell us about the creation of Hazelnut, the name, and what you have enjoyed about that.
Well, it's named Hazelnut because my wonderful grandmother Hazel. I like to say, her name was Hazel and she was a nut.
Is Hazel McEnroe?
Hazel McElrath, but her maiden name was Nuss, which actually means nut in German. So my great-grandparents had a sense of humor. But we adored her, and many years ago, we produced. Was in Forever Plaid off Broadway and all over the country, and directed it all over the country. And we loved the show, so we wanted to do it at Le Petit over the summer while I was in Sunset Boulevard. And my grandmother just recently passed away, and we had to come up with a production company name. And he goes, "How about Hazelnut Productions?" Of course, Mom and I teared up, and so I was like, "Yes." So we kept the name, and it's been successful for like 23 years on Magazine Street, 5525.
It's been sort of an anchor on Magazine Street for many years.
I'd like to say that. As I was walking into the studio today, a young lady said, "I love your store." Like, thank you.
That's wonderful.
It's always nice to hear and positive, because a lot of times, everyone's so eagerly ready to criticize. But I got this trait from my mother. When something's really great and somebody does something wonderful, let them know.
Yeah. Well, you know what's good about many things about Hazelnut that's so nice? Locally owned, and there's always an owner in the store.
Pretty much, yes.
You walk in and there's either Tom or you or both
or Katie, our other
Katie,
partner.
that's right. And people like that,
Yes, and we, nowadays, because shopping, a lot of it's mostly online now. You have to make it an experience. I still like going into, clothing and everything else. I want to touch it, see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's nice because people come in, and every time people come in, they're like, "Oh, I just love it in here. It's so happy." And we always have some great scented candle burning, and they say, "Oh, it smells so good." And I go, "It's me. It's me. I smell it."
Well, talk about that retail along Magazine Street, the importance of that.
Well, I never thought I'd be in this business. I really didn't. But it's, when an opportunity happens, I always say, try it. Why not? And Tom and I always wanted to do something like this. And I was supposed to do this big Broadway show for Cameron McIntosh, and I had done the workshops. They had even recorded the CD, the promo CD, and then he pulled at the last minute to do Mary Poppins on Broadway. And I was like, "Oh, I have all this time. The auditions, I've turned down other things." And just at that time, had done the business plan to do the store. And I said, "Well, let's do it now and open it up, and then I can go back." And really, that was the plan, to open up the store, then go back to New York and go back and forth. Well, a business is like a child. You have to be there. But the deal was, I got to, once we opened, I could go back and forth and do my thing. So I did a couple more Broadway shows and plays after that, and then Mad Men out in L.A. And it really has worked out. It really has been. But I've always loved design. I've always loved interiors and home furnishings and making things look nice.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Mad Men experience?
Sure.
Tell us about the Mad Men experience.
Tell me about the Mad Men experience. Well, I turned down my first audition. Turned it down. I didn't.
Was it for Salvatore?
It was Salvatore, yeah. Okay, it has a Katrina thing to it. So Katrina was coming. We were in California. We could not get back. And I saw, you saw the radar, you saw the Gulf was just, and my mother was terrified of hurricanes. Jay was a councilman at the time, so he was taking care of getting his family out, and Mom said, "I'm fine, I've got my flight, everything's fine." So Jay got his family out and was coming back, and my mother called in a panic saying, "My flight's been canceled," and she needed like a hip replacement and knee replacement at the time. And she was getting up in age. So, I said, "Don't worry, we're going to figure this out." Right then, my godchild, Ramsey Schmitz, called, and she goes, "B, I thought I was going to have to stay, but I've been released, but my car won't start." And I said, "Well, you have the keys to our house. My car keys in there. Go get the car, but you have to take my mother with you to use Dallas." So she said, "Of course, of course." So not only did she take our car and our mother, she and her father boarded up our house, raised everything up in the house in case water came in, and did the same for the store. So she saved the house, the car, my mom, not necessarily in that order, but everything.
Right.
So we thought, how are we going to thank her? And we said she had never been out of the country. She always wanted, she got a passport, but she hadn't been out of the country yet. So we planned a trip to Paris for her to surprise her. Broke the bank. We said, how do you have to do a proper thank you? And my audition for Mad Men came right in the middle of that trip. And, Tom was like, "You have to turn it down. You can't." I said, can they see me at another time? Like, "No, this is when they're seeing people." And this is before people were self-taping and all that. This is way back in 2006. So I turned it down, and I said, "Well, if they don't find who they want, please, I'll be happy to come in." So I was in New York several months later, rehearsing a little off-Broadway play, and my agents called and they said they didn't find who they wanted. Can you go in on your lunch break? And I went in on my lunch break, and when I came out, I called my agent. They said, well, you got it. So it was like the first time I chose
I've
life.
never heard that story, Brian.
I chose life over show business, and it paid off.
And it paid off.
And Tom was a casting director for a little while, and he goes, Brian, you don't understand the power of no. Because sometimes when you say no, they just want you more.
Very good.
You always want what you can't have. But it worked out. And we had no idea what it was going to be. You know, it was AMC's first foray into, episodic television.
Yeah.
And of that quality. Because, then their second was Breaking Bad, and the rest is history. But it was, we thought no one was going to see it. And if it was on any other network, it might have not had the life that it had because our numbers were not great.
Yeah.
But they believed in it. And it was the press. It was the press and the media that really made it a hit because they basically everywhere you look, go watch this show,
Right. I was working for an advertising agency at the time when it came out, and it was a must see for, particularly for people who work for agencies.
So many people
Like, wow,
told
is
me.
that how it was?
Yeah, so many people told me that is exactly how it was.
Yeah.
Which is kind of frightening.
That's fantastic.
It was the character was the reason why my character was fired.
Yeah. So help me understand that.
He was the big. They were Lucky Strike was the client, and I was directing the commercial, and we're editing, and he came on to me. He was like, and so tried to have sex, wanted to play around, and I was like, no, I'm married, but it was, and he went to the top and said, no, I don't want this guy on it. I don't want this guy.
The spurning of him,
and they
made him
fired.
upset.
They could turn the lights off here. That's our biggest client.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
goodbye. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it was a hard. It was a
Thanks.
hard. It was.
Thanks, writers.
And also, and they kept on telling me like, you can come back. And then, Matt Weiner later said, he goes, I wrote you off so well, I couldn't figure out a good way to bring you back. Like, no, it was heaven. It was such a great experience,
Yeah.
and it was just it was just the most wonderful thing because we had no idea. We had no idea that it was going to be
Such a hit.
Yeah,
and then it's still remembered. And your character, Brian,
people still
is
come up to me like, "What happened to
one of the
Sal?"
favorite characters
Yeah.
of that series, even though it,
Yeah, I only did the first 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. I'll never forget walking in Audubon Park, and my friend, I was walking with Katie, and her phone went off, and she goes, "Y'all are nominated for the SAG Awards." And then I think it was the Emmys or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like all these things, and then all these, there's some crazy stories. Like when they did a photo shoot for GQ, they flew us out, and I just had some dental work done, and my tooth. My front tooth it's a laminate popped off. And I'm like, we're shooting for GQ frickin' magazine, and thank God I didn't have to smile because
that would have been interesting. Yes.
yeah, it was interesting because my character was not supposed to be it was just supposed to be a little supporting, and it was just supporting. I only had like one or.
But your character had such grace and style.
Well, he also had a great storyline,
Yeah.
because he was, so he was swimming with the sharks,
Right.
and he could be found out at any moment, and he was discovering it at the same
Yeah.
time.
Which mirrored a lot of people in the
Totally,
corporate world. And,
it still happens.
Yeah.
I call it Uptown Straight.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, terrific. We like to do something on the show with our featured guest called the official New Orleans questionnaire.
Okay,
Are you ready to go with it?
I hope so.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Batt, his first question. What is the best poor boy?
Oh, Parkway. I grew up. My father would go pick them up, and Parkway, hands down. We have friends that come in from London. Every time they come in, they have to go to Parkway. We have to get fried pickles too. Now, when I went to Newman, we would run over to Domalisi's, which is good.
Yeah.
But give
Justin
me the surf
Kennedy
and
would
turf.
appreciate that
The
answer.
surf and turf at Parkway.
Surf and turf it. Okay.
And the James Brown. But several years ago, I was a judge at the Po' Boy Fest, and that was fun.
That's always a great
Yeah, it
festival.
was a
We're going to
great
cover that one too later this year. All right, here. You have an opportunity to see one New Orleans musical artist, dead or alive, in concert.
Mm-hmm.
Who would it be and where would it be?
Okay, I did. I've already done it. I was at Preservation Hall,
Right.
and with some friends from out of town because they wanted to go, and Preservation Hall is
That's
just
a
the best.
magical.
It's magical.
Magical.
And they said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight. It was no one, they didn't bill it, nothing. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. John Baptiste.
Oh.
And I'm about to tear up. It was the most magical, spiritual. That man has just love coming. He just exudes warmth and beauty and kindness. And he had us singing, he's got the whole world in his hands. The only thing I'm going to equate it to is in the movie Rocket Man, when he played at the Troubadour and everyone started levitating.
Yes.
That is the feeling.
Great Elton John movie.
It was just, I don't think I could, okay, Louis Armstrong in my living room. What? No, but it was John Baptiste at
Got it.
the
All right.
Preservation Hall.
Your favorite New Orleans smell?
Okay, the smell, I was going to go like a bar sludge, but no. The smells of spring, like right now what we're getting, like the blooms of ligustrum and Confederate jasmine and, sweet olive.
Makes you feel
it
alive.
takes me right back to when I was a little kid.
right.
The olfactory really has a powerful effect on me.
Let's go the other way.
Okay.
What's your least favorite smell?
Oh, God. Old crawfish in the quarter.
Okay. Wow, that'll do it to you.
Yeah.
All right, Mardi Gras or Jazz Fest?
Okay, this is like kind of a Sophie's choice, but I really am I'm a Mardi Gras person.
You're a Mardi Gras person.
I like dressing up. Costumes are my thing, and it's costumes are not for sissies because we don't play around with costumes.
Got
But
it.
there's something magical about Mardi Gras. It's you have to give in to it because
Become someone that you've always wanted to become.
or anything, and also it's so freeing. But we lived on the parade route for like 7 years when we first got back here. We rented a carriage house, and you don't know how many friends you have until you're on a parade route.
Well, because there's a bathroom.
A bathroom, and Tom makes a killer gumbo, so it's
There you
like
go.
watch out.
All right. What is your Saints Mount Rushmore?
Well, of course, Drew Brees,
Yes.
Steve Gleason, Archie Manning, of course, Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara?
Kamara.
Okay.
I never say his name right. I'm sorry.
He accepts all
Here's
those.
that- and then I have an honorable mention, Tom Dempsey, and of course, Gail Benson.
Very good. All right. The Mount Rushmore can be large.
Right, we can add some faces.
All right. Chicken or seafood gumbo?
Oh, now you give me Sophie's choice. That's not fair. Both.
Okay.
Because Tom makes, I call it clean the kitchen gumbo. So it's chicken, sausage, seafood, soft shell crab, anything you can find goes in.
What time are we
I know
dining
and
today?
it's so good.
All right.
But it has to be a darker roux. I don't like a light roux.
And he starts it from scratch?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Again, what time are we eating? What is your favorite New Orleans movie or TV series?
Gosh. I really like to watch, and I don't want to be negative, but I love to watch and find they do the typical, oh, look, there's suddenly a Mardi Gras parade around the corner in the French Quarter today, or, a jazz funeral just popped up. As a kid, I couldn't get enough of Live and Let Die, because I was a Bond kid. We would play James Bond in our
Yeah.
backyard. I love that.
There was
fun
a great second line scene.
right? When the body
Coffin.
drops out.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
right? I love that. I love making fun of the accents in the Big Easy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think really the one that really, really nailed it is Treme. A friend of mine, Paul Sanchez, a wonderful musician in town, adapted Dan Baum's book, 9 Lives,
Mm-hmm.
and did a musical evening of all the songs. And now they're adapting it for television, which I really think it could be great.
Wow, it could be. Obviously, it follows the Katrina
It
storyline.
starts from Hurricane Betsy and goes 10 years through but it's all different walks of life. It's and they're all real people, so it's fascinating.
What is your favorite, neutral ground or sidewalk side?
Sidewalk.
Why?
What? It's for the tourists. The neutral ground. That's you're gonna get your tarp peeled up. It's for frat boys in their tents. It's not
All right, I like that.
you got to
Definite sidewalk. All right.
sidewalk.
Your earliest memory of visiting the French Quarter?
Okay, we had these dear, dear family friends, Mid and Vivian Lester, and they were nurses at Baptist Hospital. In fact, they were there when I was born.
Amazing. You refer to it still as Baptist Hospital?
Oh yeah, it's going to be Baptist until I die. But there were these wonderful ladies, and they lived in the skyscraper, on the corner of Royal and St. Peter. They're on the second floor, and the balconies. They had two balconies, one on St. Peter.
Now, to be
and the Rapid
clear, there are no skyscrapers in the French Quarter,
but that's what
that's
this building
what
is
the building
called,
was referred
right?
to.
It's on the corner right there because it was tall, and we would go over there. They would babysit us. We would go,
wonderful!
But also, a lot of times we'd go see my father ride in Mardi Gras parades that would come down when they used to go through the quarter, and when we were little, and just the sound of the bands reverberating on those walls, and the light of the flambeaux, and coming around. It was just a magical memory.
Really seared in your mind. All right, here. Dead or alive, who is the one person you'd like to take to lunch, and where would you take them?
I'm going to be a little sentimental. I would love to take my mom to Commander's. I love any Brennan restaurant is great.
All right, so you're at Commander's. Where would y'all sit?
Well, she always wanted to sit in the garden room, but as she got older, the legs weren't good, so we would sit downstairs. But they treat everyone so wonderfully. It's always a celebration there. But when Mom would go in, it was kind of like Dolly Levi going to the Homeowner Gardens.
I bet. It's like, hello, Dolly.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hello, Dolly. Hello, Gail.
Welcome, Gail.
Yeah. So we had so many great memories there, because sometimes we would, if Jay would be out of town with the Sugar Bowl with the kids, or something around Thanksgiving, we would have holidays there too. We would go sometimes for Easter, or we'd go for
And what's so special is that there was always a family member
Oh,
walking
yes.
the floor.
Always.
And
before it was
making you feel, and everyone gets greeted by
Yes.
either T or Lally, or I
Yeah.
remember Miss Dottie walking,
Miss
and
Dottie.
Miss Ella, of course,
Miss Ella.
and Mr. Dick. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. All right. What is your favorite New Orleans song? Either a song by a New Orleans artist or a song about New Orleans?
It's, do you know what it means to miss New Orleans? I mean, I liked it for so long, and then Katrina hit, and I think I sang it 1,000 times since then. Sometimes I'd have a few drinks at a bar or at a restaurant, just stand up and sing it. It has such resonance now, and there's the longing in there that makes me just.
It's almost like a prayer.
It is a prayer.
Yeah. What is the one New Orleans food item you can't live without?
King cake.
Ah.
From Highdow across the river. It's my favorite.
All right.
And they're the nicest people. The nicest people there.
You've been out of town for a month. You fly back into our beautiful airport,
I love our airport.
hop into an Uber,
Okay.
decide to have a drink.
Okay.
Where are you going to go, and what are you going to have?
I'm going to go, this is another kind of sentimental thing, to a newer place right next to Gautrose Avenue that my friend Bill Kearney opened up, and my friend Jay Adams, and they dedicated a drink to my brother, and it's the JB Fog Cutter. And they've recreated
from the Valley High Fog
the Valley
Cutter.
High Fog Cutter glass, and it's served in the Fog Cutter glass,
Rum
and it is the
based?
exact recipe.
Wow.
Because Jay had the recipes from that, and actually they were in my dad's handwriting.
I'd love to know if we could reincarnate Valley High somewhere. I mean, such great memories.
It's great memory. That's the whole one thing about when you try to recreate something. You could maybe start over, try to do it, but you can never go back.
Yeah.
Time only goes forward.
Just those
but no,
feelings
those
that the
feelings,
Valley
but
High
create
gave.
the new, But but it was such a. I mean, can you imagine? I had egg rolls before I had a bottle. It's like that was my first solid food.
Love it. In 5 words or less, why do you love New Orleans?
People, passion, resilience, music, life.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to end this wonderful conversation by asking you, what is the secret to 37 years of being together with one person?
Okay, first of all, he's the funniest person. I mean, he has the most wonderful, dry sense of humor. And he ties some of the things.
So a good balance to you, right?
Yes, exactly. And he's kind of grounded, and I'm like ADD poster child. Tom, like sometimes I'll start mid-sentence. I've already started it in my head, and I'll come out and say, green for, and it's like, what are you talking about? He's like, give nouns and verbs, Bryan, nouns and verbs. And we just laugh. And I think, that because life can be hard and it can be, difficult and long, but when you have laughter,
Yeah.
with love, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we really do care about each other. And I think, someone said you wake up, when you have a child or something, you love that child no matter what. But when you're in a relationship, you wake up every morning and you decide to be in that relationship. And I think, I'm very lucky. I wake up happy. I wake up. I'm a new soul, but I wake up happy.
Well, we're a great role model
for
many people.
I didn't
We appreciate
intend to be.
Well, you are.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Well, right back at you.
Brian, this has been just a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.
As you get through some more of these projects this summer, I'd love to have you back to
Sure,
talk
sure.
about what you can and what you
Well,
can hint at least.
We'll give your mama my love.
I will tell Mom hello for you. She is very special to her.
Oh God, she's an amazing lady.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's episode 14 of the Mark Romig Show, and we've got a big one for you today. The New Orleans Saints are making moves, and we're breaking down the draft with Sean Fazende of Fox 8. Then, festival season is in full swing, and we've got Keith Spera from NOLA.com joining us to talk all things New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. And finally, we head to the French Quarter for a first look at Holy Water with restaurateur Alex Pincus. Crew, what a week. What a weekend. We had Zurich Classic, we had the first weekend of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, and we had the Saints draft. Who wants to take the first one?
I'll go first.
Okay, Cal.
Because I was at Jazz Fest on Sunday, it was an event. It was awesome. The main two acts I saw were Irma Thomas and the Isley Brothers, and they were great. They both had to sit down because Irma Thomas is, 80-something, and the last remaining Isley brother is 84. So they were sitting down while they were singing, but they still brought the house down.
That's great.
It was awesome.
Great crowds, too, huh?
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize
I saw an
that.
aerial view of the Stevie Nicks crowd on Saturday, and it looked like the entire fairgrounds was looking at Stevie Nicks' stage.
I believe it rained during her set, too. And then
Amazing.
the rainbow came out.
Yeah, I saw the
saw
rainbow.
that.
Yeah.
That was gorgeous.
Crazy. I was out to Zurich as well. We had a magnificent finish with the Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick, the brothers, winning. Just an emotional victory at the end. And again, Zurich Classic, they know how to do it. The Four Kids Foundation does a great job out there, the TPC of Louisiana. What else?
Perfect area. I went to Trombone Shorty's Tremay Throwdown.
Ah, yes.
Shorty turns 40. He had a little birthday party at the Singer.
Excellent.
Yeah,
A lot of his friends showed up.
So many friends. I think he had 11 guests total. Not to mention like a whole extra horn band of something like an extra 12 people showed up for 3 or 4 songs, and it was crazy. I met Irma Thomas. She was a delight.
She was standing.
She was standing.
She was standing.
She is
still
an
amazing.
icon. And also the Saints draft happened this weekend. We're going to talk more about that later. But I think the Saints did very well. There's a lot of buzz about the speed that came out of that draft, and so looking forward to the season.
Excited.
A lot going on, guys. A lot going on coming up too.
That is.
Coming up.
Just want to mention that I've heard a little message from someone that Blue Bayou Border Park might be opening up in a couple of weeks, so everyone should go get their
Anticipation.
tickets. I can't wait. That's something of a childhood memory and in my kids' memories, and we can't wait for it to reopen and have some good time at a fun water park that's local.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there myself.
Beat that summer heat.
Definitely. All right, coming up, Sean Fazende will talk Saints draft and what we can expect from the upcoming season. Next on the Mark Romig Show.
Move the chains.
As you know, the New Orleans Saints have wrapped up the draft, and now the real conversation is about to begin. Who stood out, what it means for the roster, what fans can be expecting heading into the season. Joining us now to break it all down is Sean Fazende from Fox 8. Sean, it's great to have you.
Good to be here.
Yes, sir. I know I just saw you this past weekend at the Zurich.
Yeah.
It was great, great experience out there. Let's just touch on that for a few moments.
Yeah.
What a great ending.
Well, look, obviously the Zurich is a unique stop on the tour, and I think the players that are involved enjoy the camaraderie doing the duo thing, and then to have two brothers, they were in the lead, Had some issues, but then rallied back with an incredible chip there out the bunker there on 18, was just amazing. So great theater, great way to finish it. It's such a cool event, and it's so unique to New Orleans. I like that New Orleans has kind of carved out its own lane for the PGA Tour, and I thought it was a great finish.
Oh, the team concept when it came to us several years back really has truly made a difference. And with that great sponsor that we have in Zurich, the fact that, as you know, you've experienced the atmosphere at the TPC of Louisiana is like no other.
And, the players really pick up on this unique sort of style and this unique city. And it's very New Orleans.
Yeah.
And for the players that first time here, I think it kind of, oh, wow, this is something else. And then the repeat players, I think it's their stop every year. So it's really become a really great event.
Well, Matt and Alex Fitzpatrick, they're on to bigger and greater things, and he got his tour card, and
That's awesome.
Great. All right, let's talk about the Saints draft this past weekend. Big weekend for the Saints. What's your biggest overall takeaway?
Start your engines, because this offense is going to hit some speed. Look, they went in with the plan this offseason, obviously, even though they didn't necessarily say it out loud. They are building around the young quarterback, Tyler Shuck. They didn't just draft one wide receiver. They didn't just draft two. They drafted three, plus a pass-catching tight end and a interior offensive lineman. I think they're telling us they wanted some enhanced improvement on that offensive side of the ball. And if they're not much improved next year, I think that's going to be a major issue, because they've invested a lot on that side of the ball. And draft weekend, that's my biggest takeaway, is the build around Tyler Shuck is very, very real.
Yeah, you saw that. Any surprises? Anything that took you off?
Yes, a few. I would just say, for me, the big one was they had a few opportunities to really target a cornerback, DB, secondary position of need. And I know they ended up getting one in the 7th round. And I know we all love the Marcus Colston 7th round stories, but the truth of the matter is 7th round picks, to have an instant impact, I think that would be asking a little much. And I thought there were multiple opportunities on day 2 and day 3 to perhaps get that DB that can be a little bit more of an instant contributor. And I think Mickey Loomis said as much after. They had a plan going in to address the cornerback position. Didn't necessarily work out that way. So that was probably my biggest surprise, but that they didn't address that position a little earlier.
Yeah. The choice of Bryan Brown.
Love it.
LSU.
I love it. Here's why. Not just that he went to LSU, even though that
always helps.
It always helps.
Yeah.
Mickey even joked with us after I drafted an LSU player and I didn't trade up. No more questions, right? So, but I love that at the top of the page is kickoff return specialist and a kickoff returner that can really do dynamic things. 6 career kickoff returns for touchdowns
had a
throughout his
record,
collegiate career. And with the way the new kickoff rule is set now, that matters. That play has been revived in the NFL. So to get someone that can specialize in that to help with field position, even create some explosive plays in the return game. I mean, when you're talking about the Saints, you're trying to get wins and losses. You're looking at every area to improve. And I think being explosive across the board really helps in that regard. And look, a special teamer I think really helps too.
Yeah, you touched on it, but if you had to write the headline, did the Saints address their biggest needs?
Not everything. A lot of things. And the entire offseason, they needed to get more explosive on offense. And they did that with the free agent additions and obviously the draft. But I look at the secondary, I look at the defensive backfield, and I still think there's a question as to who's going to play the inside, who's going to play the slot corner, and how does that mix and match? Because based off different personnel groupings, you may have one guy. Based on other personnel groupings, you may have a different player. I think they need to add to that room. Maybe this late wave free agency, they can add another player there, but I think they're a little light. That's probably my biggest concern going forward.
Yeah. So look at the list of draftees. Which rookie has the best shot to make the impact right away?
Oh, it's got to be round 1. It's got to be Jordan Tyson. Look, I will say this. I am very much in like with the pick. I'm not in love yet because of the injury issue, but if he is the most talented wide receiver in this class, that is without question.
But that's what they said.
Without question.
In the draft.
And what he does from a skill set standpoint, he's explosive, but explosive in a different way. What I love about him is when the ball is in his hands, the play's just getting started. After he makes the catch, he's going. He's running after the catch. And I felt like if you really go back and watch games last year, who they currently have, the skill set. I think that particular skill set is something that they were really lacking. I mean, a guy that can take a 5-yard slant and make a 50-yard gain, I think is something that is truly an asset and something that they
Has
haven't
the
had.
speed you were talking about.
Speed, and he runs with a physicalness that reminds me almost a little bit of Michael Thomas, to be honest with you. And I think if he's healthy, I think he's going to be a top-tier wide receiver. Now, hamstring issues for a receiver, knee issues for a receiver, that's a risk. There's no doubt about that. That is a risk. But clearly they felt like the potential reward was greater than taking that risk, and they went ahead and rolled with it. So I think Jordan Tyson is the one that has the biggest chance to make the biggest impact.
I'm sure you're getting this question from a lot of people. What's a realistic expectation for the team this year going into the season?
Well, they went 6-11, and they found a quarterback. Now, I know he's only got 9 starts, but if you go back and really watch, I'm in my rewatch phase right now of last season, the way he elevated around him with far less talent, I think is something that they saw, that we all saw. I think it's something unique and rare at that position. So you add those pieces around. It's really just a matter of, can they come together quickly? So I guess that's a long-winded way of me saying they were 6-11 last year. I think this is at least a 9-win ball club, if not 10, because you're playing an NFC South, which I think is a very attainable division. I think you're going to have a somewhat favorable schedule. It's not going to be easy, but it's somewhat favorable schedule. And I think you just hope that rookie quarterback and Tyler Shuck can make that leap from year 1 to year 2, and you invested a whole lot on that side of the ball. And I expect them not just win games, but score a lot of points as well.
Yeah. Now the draft is done. What's the schedule now for the Saints going in? The training. What happens next?
Well, next is rookie minicamp. That'll be the first thing. All the draft picks, undrafted free agents.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah. Normally it's before OTA, so it's somewhere probably the next week or so. Then OTAs begin mid to late May, I believe, and that's when they do their 3 practices a week. We're able to go watch one of those practices every week. It's usually a 4-week stretch. Then they have mandatory minicamp in mid-June, and they take that 5.5, 6-week break, report back late July for training camp, and that's when we all tell our wives, see y'all in a little while, and football season's here.
Travel begins, and we're hearing that the schedule should come out mid-May for the season. So I know there are a lot of Saints fans excited about what's on the horizon, potential travel across the pond, and some other exciting things like that.
You got the Paris, France trip. I got my mom calling me, asking me when you
same
think it's going to be.
questions,
They normally plan out 1. I think they're going to do 2 this year because they're going to do the Paris trip. So it's always fun. That scheduled day is interesting because it really sets the tone for the rest of the fall for a lot of people in this city.
I know, yeah. The social calendar
Absolutely
revolves around the Saints, which is how it should be, because when we all go to the Caesars Superdome, it's like we all going home anyway, right?
All going home, absolutely.
This is great insight from Sean. Thank you so very much. We always appreciate your perspective. Saints fans, plenty to watch as we head into the season. You can catch Sean on Fox 8 and the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. And as you know, we're going to be partners with y'all on the network, too.
Yes,
So we're looking
should be
forward to
fun.
that.
Absolutely. Should
So
be
thanks
fun.
for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
This was great.
We'll come back maybe as we get into the training season.
Anytime.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Week 1 of New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival is in the books, and there's no better voice to break it all down than someone who's been covering the New Orleans music scene for years with the Times-Picayune and the Advocate. Sponsored by New Orleans and Company, joining us now on 5 Minutes With to recap Weekend 1, look ahead to Weekend 2, and talk Fest After Dark. Keith Sparrow.
Hey, Mark.
It's good to see you.
Likewise.
It's like we're simpatico.
We've been in this position before, just
Reversed,
opposite.
that's
just
right.
Reversed, yes.
It's great to have you.
Glad to be here.
All right, you've been out there all weekend. What stood out to you most this past weekend?
2 things. The first was Ray on opening Thursday. British singer-songwriter. I'd never seen her before. She headlined the Gentilly stage. Totally blown away. She had a big band, 7 horns, 4 strings. She's in a green evening gown. But her personality was just so effervescent and so fun. She clearly was enjoying herself, loved being there, knew where she was, knew the history. but the band was like pinpoint. They're all in tuxedos with white sneakers.
Wow.
So they look great. All her techs were also dressed up as well. And so the whole presentation was great. A couple got engaged in the crowd during her show. She saw it. She almost started crying. And then she said, okay, when we play Where Is My Husband, we're going to bring you guys up on stage. And she did. When she got to that later in the set, this couple came out of the audience, sat on the stage. She sang Where Is My Husband to the newly engaged couple. That was great. And then it was John Batiste weekend. I mean, Thursday, he did an interview on the Allison Modern Music Heritage stage, which was very funny and charming, good fun. Friday, his big show at the festival stage, which was like the span of New Orleans music, from hip-hop to Mardi Gras Indians to piano, all kinds of crazy stuff. But then, Sunday night, he comes out in the blues tent on a set that has been, stage that has been made to look like a swamp camp with like women stirring pots of food and cattails and ferns and Spanish moss and all this kind of stuff. He comes out costumed as an old man with a white beard, hair, hunched over, walking overalls, and plays this like really interesting and different kind of set.
Yeah, and nobody recognized him initially.
I think a lot of people were confused initially as like, who's the old guy? Where's John Batiste? But then it became apparent that this was him just in this character. And then midway through, he left, came back out with a pompadour, and did like a 50s rock and roll thing. So he was doing like Chuck Berry songs on the piano and Fats Domino songs on the piano. So it was clearly John like having fun and exercising another element of his creativity.
Yeah, you captured it so well in your story in the Times-Picayune at NOLA.com. The essence of Jazz Fest really all coming together at that one point in that stage, because it was a little bit of the richness that you see, the talent that you see, and he captured the audience so well.
Yeah, and he's a homegrown guy. I mean,
Yeah.
Product of St. Aug and Noka. So for a local guy to be in that position to headline the big stage on a weekend, and then B, come back and do this totally creative and unusual thing in the blues tent another night. I mean, it's really neat to see how his creativity is just expressing itself in all these ways.
And you had Rod Stewart,
Yep.
the whole Marcia Ball.
Oh my gosh, the Marcia Ball tribute. Marcia Ball, she has ALOS. She's been playing at the festival for many, many years, playing in New Orleans forever. So she can no longer speak and is retired from performing. So her band and a bunch of special guests, including John Cleary, were going to play her songs in the blues tent. She was there watching from the side of the stage, and at one point surprised everyone by getting up and taking a seat at the keyboard and playing one of the songs. And there were a lot of tears, I think, at that moment, because you could see she was really, working hard to do it. But she did it, and then her husband helped her stand up afterward, and she got her cane and she walked off the side of the stage. But it was heavy. It was an emotional moment. It was good.
So, what are you thinking about for this weekend? What are you excited about?
Thursday is always a great day because the crowds are light, and you don't have the kind of crush of people looking to see the big star. So you've got Widespread Panic, the jam band out there. Longest set of the entire festival, 2.5 hours, which I think amounts to about 3 songs for those guys because they like to improvise a whole lot, But also
they're loyal fans for that. They're loyal
yeah. I mean, they've been at the
fans,
festival 10 or 12 times at this point, so they're a
Yeah.
favorite, and they always play that second Thursday. That's kind of their slot now. But also on Thursday, you've got Judith Owen, who I just love. She does this kind of big band thing, but also a jazz thing. She just put out
Mixes
a record.
some humor in there as well.
She has that Welsh wit, where it can be very wicked, but a lot of fun. So yes, a lot of her personality comes out on stage. John Papagro, who I think is a very underrated New Orleans piano player, he's going to be doing his show out there on Thursday as well. And I think he's a lot of fun, and he's like the real New Orleans deal. Plays a lot of organ as well as piano. He's going to be in the blues tent Thursday afternoon.
Good. Friday, I hear Lainey Wilson will be there.
Lainey Wilson, from tiny town in Louisiana, and now is like, one of the biggest stars in country music. I mean, you've arrived when you not only host, I think it was the Academy of Country Music Awards, but also win Entertainer of the Year at the same telecast. So you're like, congratulations, Lainey Wilson. Thank you, Lainey Wilson. So she'll be out there. Jazz Fest always has the one big country star. And this year, it just happens to be a homegrown talent.
I know a lot of people going out there Saturday for the Eagles.
Little up-and-coming rock and roll band from California.
Kind of making it big. I heard they were big time in the Sphere.
Right, they just played the Sphere. Stevie Nicks on this past Saturday had the biggest crowd of the festival by far so far. Eagles will probably be up there as well. Don Henley's the only original guy left, but Joe Walsh has been there a long time. Timothy B. Schmidt's been there a long time. Vince Gill is also there, filling in for the late Glenn Frey. So last couple times I've seen the Eagles. Fantastic, yeah. So,
And traditionally, Sunday closes with some big names as well.
you got John Trombone Shorty.
Shorty, yeah.
Traditional slot closing Sunday. Right before him, Teddy Swims, who in the grand scheme of things is a bigger star than Shorty nationally, but Jazz Fest likes to have the local act as the final act on that final Sunday. But also a couple small things on Sunday. The Rhythm Emporium, which is a little tent on the infield. They've got a show with 3 of the top country music songwriters, including Jim McCormick, who's from New Orleans originally, but a guy named Craig Wiseman, who ASCAP named the Songwriter of the Century a couple years ago. So it's a very kind of under-the-radar thing, but literally it's 3 of the guys from in the country music world that have written some of the biggest hits that are out there playing together in the Rhythm Emporium, which is the size of a living room. So a really interesting opportunity to see those guys up close.
So give us one big name everyone should catch.
The big names, obviously, I tell you what, I like Lake Street Dive a lot. They're going to be on Thursday on the Gentilly stage. A lot of harmonies. Just a different take on a pop band. It's like an acoustic band, but their big thing is acoustic harmonies. And look, a lot of people hate on the Eagles. I wrote an article, it'll be in the Friday paper, where I express my love for the Eagles. And it's like, there's a reason the Eagles' Greatest Hits is one of the biggest selling albums of all time. It's because it's perfect. It's great, and you've heard the songs a zillion times, but when you step back and really listen, like, oh yeah, these
That'd
guys
be
can
your
write
one must-see act this week.
Look, I don't know if there's one. I hate to pick one.
I know, it's like picking your favorite child.
Yeah. There's a million. But I'm curious to see Teddy Swims, what he does out there, and I'd love to see him sing a song with Trombone Shorty after his set. That'd be a lot of fun if that happens.
So talk to us about after dark shows. What do you recommend, and how do you approach those?
Personally, I approach them from home in my bedroom, because after I go out all day at the festival and then finish writing the next day's column at 8:30, I want to go home and take a shower and go to sleep.
Wish them well, but
I hope for the best, and I
but
hope
it's
they
pretty
do
exciting.
well.
The music doesn't stop.
No, it's bananas. The first weekend, I wrote a summation of the nighttime highlights. It was 2,000 words, which for us at the newspaper now, that constitutes a novel. Like, we don't write articles. I could have written 3,000 words. There's so much music jammed in. I'll have the sequel to that in this Thursday's Lang Up section, so you can check it out, and that'll be use that as your guide. Because there's dozens and dozens of shows. Some of them starting at 2 a.m., which is
Yeah.
once upon a time I would have gone to, but I don't.
To me, it's why New Orleans needs to be considered the live music capital of the world. It doesn't stop.
You're right, and I think you can make that case any day of the year, but these 2 weeks during Jazz Fest, there's no question.
Yeah.
It's bananas how much music is going on.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back too when we do the NOLA by NOLA again, and you've got so many other. Music is so part of our festival scene now. Good food, good music, good festival.
Yeah, and Jazz Fest, is unlike any other major festival in the world in that 80+% of the artists are indigenous to New Orleans or South Louisiana. No other major festival has that much quote unquote local talent on the bill. So that's what gives this festival its personality and makes it special.
Well, you've been covering this for such a long time. What do you think makes Jazz Festival so special as far as coverage and comparing it to other festivals?
Yeah, this is my 30th year at the Times-Picayune, and before that I covered it for 5 years at Offbeat. So I've covered 35 Jazz Fests at this point. And really, the thing that I just said, it is so local at its core. Every act on just about every stage up until like that final headlining slot, is local. But not only that, this festival has adapted over the years to the norms of what a contemporary music festival is. It's added the VIP seating, it's added sponsorships, added, video screens and all that. But at its core, it's still recognizable as the same festival it was 30 years ago. The food booths are all in the same place. The stages are basically in the same place. You can go out there.
It's like going home almost.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it is. You can go there and still it still feels like Jazz Fest, even though it has, like I said, changed a little bit with the times. It's still Jazz Fest at its core. It's still New Orleans at its core.
Quint Davis is a master at it.
He, it's great. Everybody thinks he actually founded it, but it was founded by George Wein, the same guy that started the Newport Jazz and Folk Festival. He brought Quint in when Quint was just a Tulane student looking for a purpose in life who loved a lot of music. And Quint's been the guy, who's shaped that thing ever since.
So tell us where we can find your coverage and check out your own podcast.
Every day of the festival, I'll be writing on NOLA.com. My wrap-up of every day is in the next day's Times-Picayune. And then, I've, interviewed a lot of the folks that are playing at the festival on my show on WLAE, which airs on Thursdays and Sundays, and then it also airs on WWNO Radio 89.9 on Monday at lunchtime and Tuesday night.
Great.
So lots of musicians, we get to talk and spend 25 minutes telling stories.
That's
and having fun.
fantastic, and we deeply appreciate the depth that you take us into all the time.
It's
It's always
a lot of
great
fun.
catching up with you, Keith.
Mark, always a pleasure, man.
Be sure to follow his coverage and check out his podcast for everything happening in and around Jazz Fest. This week's On the Table is presented by Blue Runner Foods once again, and it brings us back home to a true full circle story, from the French Quarter to New York and back again. Joining us is Alex Pincus, founder of Crew and the visionary behind the restaurant soon to open here, Holy Water. Alex, great to have you join us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Thank you. Listen, this, like I said in the opening, it's a full circle moment. I'm sure it feels like a full circle moment. You grew up in the French Quarter and now opening a restaurant just steps away from your childhood home. What does it mean to you to bring Holy Water back to where it all started?
I could not be more excited about this project. To me, this feels like the culmination of all the work that I've done pretty much my entire life. Planned or unplanned, it all seems to be coming together around this really special spot that's effectively in the epicenter of everything meaningful that's ever happened to me.
That's a wonderful way to kind of frame the passion I know that you're bringing to this project. You've said before that you can't replicate what's in the air in New Orleans. How did growing up here shape your approach to hospitality and the kind of experience that you're creating at Holy Water?
I didn't recognize it growing up because, you're just a kid and everything seems normal. But I was lucky enough to be raised around some of the most incredible hospitality professionals that I've ever witnessed in my entire life. From, Mr. Fisher, the maitre d' at the Royal Orleans, to, watching behind the scenes at Arno's and Galatoire's, and just growing up around these incredible restaurant families, and in the heart of, and at a time when hospitality was really alive and well in New Orleans, and, one of the sort of great currencies of life, in a sense, the thing that keeps everything flowing. And, just running around the back hallways of the Royal Orleans or the Monteleone, or, sneaking into the bar as a kid, I learned a lot about how things should be. I didn't know how to do them, but I really understood what it should feel like and how people should make you feel when things are, going right, and or how to fix things when they're not going right. And so I just, I was lucky enough to grow up with this great sort of core foundation about what it means to be in hospitality and what it means, how to treat people and how to make people feel welcome, and, create experiences that are transportive in a way.
You mentioned some of the
and-
greats in hospitality. Just for a moment, I do want you to just briefly mention your dad, Ron Pincus, who to me was the epitome of a hotel general manager.
Truly was, and it's been interesting. I've had a lot of meetings in New Orleans recently with a wide range of people, including you, and everyone has said to me how impactful my dad was on their career, and also just on their sense of how to comport themselves in the world. And I have to say, he really truly was a great example of a leader and a manager, and also won Best Dressed Man in New Orleans 1985. Which
and balanced by your great mom, Ann Pincus, who is a force of her own.
Interestingly, they were both in food in the French Quarter for my whole life. My mom ran New Orleans' famous Praline Company,
Yeah.
and my dad ran the Monteleone and the Rib Room, and as such had the Rib Room and the Carousel and all these sort of iconic places to experience the French Quarter. And our new restaurant that we're building is effectively in the middle of those two locations, which
Yeah, it's
to
like-
me means a lot. Yeah.
You're housing Holy Water in a building that dates back to 1837, and as you mentioned, it is kind of in between the Monteleone and the Royal Orleans, so you know the neighborhood. But what drew you to that specific address, 622 Conti Street?
Well, it's funny. So my older brother, Matt Pincus, he was a police officer in New Orleans for many years, and he actually worked in the police station next door that's on the corner of Royal and Conti for easily 15 years. And I don't know, maybe a little over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, maybe even, he started calling us, harassing us about this building that was for sale that we had to see. And, you know, I was busy and I just kind of put it off and put it off and put it off, which probably worked out for the best. Because
Were you
the
thinking
price-
about coming back to New Orleans to do a restaurant, or you just
I
weren't
wasn't
even there?
really thinking about it strongly because I felt really good about what we had done at Seaworthy. But interestingly, when we opened Seaworthy, we originally had this concept to open Holy Water, which is, you know, slightly different conceptually. And, you know, we were working with Domain, which is a great group down in New Orleans.
Right.
And, you know, through
Great
a lot of
developers.
conversations and through understanding what a hotel needs next to it, it didn't really feel like the right project at the time. So we opened up Seaworthy, which I was really proud of and I thought we did a great job on. And then in New York City during COVID, you know, everything that we had was closed. You know, at that point we had probably 5 restaurants and everything was closed. There was a big New York Times story about us, you know, huge front page story about us basically being SOL, you know, like, and, you know, my girlfriend at the time, she said, well, you know, all press is good press. And I was like, well, I don't know if this one's good because we're pretty much screwed. But during COVID, you know, other than, you know, losing all my money, we were having a very nice family time, but I was getting a little stir crazy. And my wife said, I think you need a project. And so I started rethinking about this holy water idea. And, you know, suddenly a friend of mine called and said, I rented a space and it's got this incredible cellar that we don't know what to do with. And, you know, I remember actually back at the Rib Room, they had this incredible wine cellar downstairs
Yeah.
that always captivated me as a kid. And there's been something about like sneaking downstairs that's just been a part of my life. So we ended up finding this great bar in New York City, and I could have opened it the next day when we rented it. But instead we spent the whole year of COVID renovating this thing and making it kind of our dream getaway that where we go in the winter. Because most of our bars and restaurants we have in New York are outdoors and on the water. So we didn't really have a hideaway to go, you know, be warm and cozy in the winter. So we built that. And I thought I had sort of like scratched the itch of whatever holy water was supposed to be. But, you know, as you mentioned earlier, there truly is something in the air in New Orleans that can't be replicated. And there's a sensibility about, you know, how people engage with each other and in restaurants and in public spaces that just doesn't exist anywhere else. And I realized, you know, as fun as I ever have at Holy Water in New York, and, you know, people have a great time and it's been really successful and the food is awesome and the vibes are great. There's just something that we don't have.
Yeah.
And I had this inkling kind of like in Star Wars where there's, you know, they did the whole series, then they had a prequel where they went back and did the first movie that didn't even exist yet. And, you know, as we were looking at this building, we discovered that it used to be a maritime chandlery, which is, you know, the place that sells wares to boats and sells supplies to boats. And that story was just too cool. You know, to me, to find something like that in the French Quarter, you know, right in the center of everything that I know from growing up.
Yeah, almost
it was just too
190
good.
years old. It's amazing.
I mean, it was almost too good to be true. So, you know, the second I started paying attention to my brother, and we flew down, my younger brother and I flew down to look at it, and then I was blown away. You know, I couldn't believe that there was a building like this available and, you know, with such incredible infrastructure and history. So, you know, then all of a sudden we had this crazy need to make it happen. And that's what's funny about what we do is we just get these obsessions and we just go with it.
You've got this great concept. Some of us might remember this building because we went there in our formative years. It was called something else back then, but I remember
Melius.
it's
Was it
that's
Melius
right.
when you- yeah.
Some long nights there, but it's 3 stories. And talk us through the concept of the restaurant. What will people experience?
So, you know, I've always enjoyed venues where you can go to them and not just be in a fixed spot and stay in one place and not engage with other people. I like when you can, you have to wander or you get the inkling to wander and you can kind of move around and connect with other people and see what else is going on. And this building really plays to that very well. There's, 3 street side rooms effectively that are beautiful. And on the first floor, we're making a, old school oyster bar, cocktail bar that, really focused around that bar experience, walk in and out, very casual. And then on the second level, there's this beautiful balcony that overlooks the courthouse and, a proper dining room. And we're leaning into, we hired this incredible chef, effectively my dream chef from New Orleans. So I really want to take advantage of the fact that we can produce incredible food and, make this more of a proper dining room. But not, not a white tablecloth dining room, but something, where the food is going to be great and where the atmosphere is lively and engaging. And then on the third floor, there's this beautiful room with all the walls sort of crumbling like haven't been touched in a couple hundred years. I want to keep it exactly like that. Put a piano in and a bar and a little tiny cocktail bar, make that a lounge and event space where we can have private parties or special occasions with live music. So I really want to activate as much of the building as we can, especially on the street side, and just have it be this vibrant place that reminds me of the quarter when I was growing up.
Very good. Well, speak to the chef as well and the menu. What will people be able to be enjoying?
Part of what I really took away from New Orleans in my experience there is this really strong interaction between the high and low experiences. You can be in Galatoire's having this incredible meal, mingling with, interesting characters who are, from all, strata of society. And then all of a sudden you walk outside and you're in the middle of Bourbon Street and everything's madness and then you're having a different kind of fun. And the juxtaposition of, different types of people and different types of cuisines and different types of experiences that you get in New Orleans, to me, is much stronger and more dynamic than anywhere. And I really want to feel that in one place. Like, I want to be able to get oysters with caviar on top, and I also want to be able to get, a debris po' boy. And sometimes those things go really great together.
Yeah.
Sometimes you want a really nice glass of wine, and sometimes you want a Jello shot. And I have been personally very comfortable in both of those worlds. And, that's the kind of New Orleans experience that I like to feel. So that's the kind of room I'm trying to make. I want you to be able to go in there in a t-shirt and gym shorts and sit down at the bar and feel okay about yourself. And I want you to be able to go in there in a blazer for a work meeting or go on a date or, maybe you go there and meet someone. All the sort of possibilities I want to be alive in there.
Well, there's clearly an obsession with oysters as well. So, and you're going to have from Gulf to East and West Coast, you're even developing your own Sailor Baby oyster. What should guests be most excited to try? And what does success look like for you in year one?
Well, it's interesting because I grew up, even as a kid, I loved oysters in New Orleans. And I obviously only ever had a Gulf oyster my whole life until I didn't even know there was different kinds of oysters until I moved to New York. And, frankly, not even until I was in my, 30s, mid 30s that I know that there's anything other than, just oysters. And then, as we got in, I started to make some friends in the restaurant world and started going to, like restaurants that were trying new things up here. And I discovered that there's, this broad world of what's happening in oysters and different flavor profiles and types and species. And, I started to get pretty interested in it. And then all of a sudden when we opened an oyster bar, it's a crash course in everything oysters. And we've been doing this now for 13 years, and I'm finally starting to feel like I somewhat know what we're talking about. And last year, we actually hired a guy who'd been working for us forever as our head shucker. We promoted him to be our director of oysters company-wide. And his job is to source oysters, train our teams on being better shuckers and more broad oyster knowledge. And he came to me with this idea that we should make our own oyster. And I thought it was an incredible idea. I had no idea why we had never thought of it, but we were making our own whiskey with some friends of ours in Brooklyn. We had made our own beers, but we'd never even thought to make our own oyster. So I have to give him, credit for that brilliant idea. And we went to one of our partners that makes what we already thought was one of the best oysters out there, and asked if they would want to partner with us to make a, curated oyster based on our specifications of how we wanted it to taste and the size and the flavor profile and how it shucks, and effectively everything that you can control in an oyster. And they were super excited about this. So we jumped into this project together. And I named it after my youngest son, Sailor, who was conceived after an epic oyster tour of Maine.
That's what they say about them oysters, yeah. But what is it? Is it the salinity? How do you create your own oyster?
So, oysters, very much like most things, are a product of their, DNA that they have built in, and then how and where they're raised, like what their environment is and how you treat them, what the conditions are. So if you raise, if you take oyster A and oyster B, they're twins effectively, and you raised one of them in Louisiana in, the certain water conditions that we have, the temperatures, the wave action, the salinity of the water, all those things have an effect on the flavor profile and the shape of that oyster. So what we wanted to focus on was really balancing fattiness, sweetness, brine, and then also you can control the shape of the oyster based on the depths of water that you grow it in and how much wave action it gets. Like when an oyster tumbles, the shell of that oyster gets chipped on the edges and actually pushes the oyster to grow a deeper belly so that it gets to be a fatter, more robust oyster as opposed to like a wide, flat oyster. Like a lot of Louisiana oysters are wild, and so you'll get these big, wide, flat, like almost the size of your hand oysters. But West Coast oysters in particular, they're really tumbled quite a bit because of where they're grown, and they tend to be quite small but deep, and that has a real effect on the flavor.
So the Sailor Baby oyster is going to be a West Coast oyster or East Coast?
Sailor Baby oyster is an East Coast oyster that we grow in Long Island Sound, like near the Hamptons. But what is so great about it is we shift its growing location throughout its life cycle, and as they start to get bigger, we put them in much bigger waves, so they're constantly getting tumbled, and it forces them to be a particular size and fattiness that has just a really incredible balance when you take a bite of it.
Absolutely incredible and a great lesson. Thank you very much for that crash course, so to speak.
I mean, I'm learning tons as we go. I'm the median level of oyster knowledge, and there's people that will blow your mind.
All right, so tell us about the opening. When can people expect and start making reservations?
Based on today and the way that New Orleans government interacts with our permitting process, I'm thinking that we're looking around June for when we're going to get the doors open.
Okay.
The space is looking great. Really excited about it. And we've been working with Chef Alex quite a bit on the menu, and it's all coming together on all sides. And we need to get some VCC things signed off on so we can get the doors open.
Yeah, well, listen, we're excited for this to be a new gem in the French Quarter. Excited for you to come back home. I know you've got an operation happening up on the East Coast, but to have you back here is going to be exciting once again, and to have your family here.
I'm excited too. It's almost to my detriment. Spending all my time and energy and thoughts on figuring out how to make this the best place that we can make it.
As you know, New Orleans is always looking for an exciting moment, an exciting time, and I think you're bringing it with holy water. So,
thank you. I can't wait to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, it's going to be beautiful space. You got an incredible story, and we can't wait to experience it. Next, we have This Week in New Orleans with April Dupree. This week we have the second weekend of Jazz Fest. There's lots to do, lots to eat, lots to see. What are we going to look at, April?
Thanks so much, Mark. Here's where to eat, drink, and play at Jazz Fest this week in New Orleans. Last week was for first-timers, but this week we're talking about the OGs. Start with crawfish bread from Panorama Foods. Hot, cheesy, and packed with crawfish. Grab a cochon de lait po' boy from Walker's Barbecue's Love at First Bite. It's piled high with slow-cooked pork, sauce, and slaw. Bokerson sausage po' boy brings the heat with classic Creole flavors rooted in New Orleans tradition. Can't decide on one? Then don't. Decide on three with Patton Seafood Trio. It's served hot with fresh crawfish stacks, oyster patties, and shrimp beignets. For a savory take on a classic sweet treat, go for the crab meat stuffed beignets from Loretta's Authentic Pralines. If you're in need of a reset, Miss Linda's Yakamain features a rich broth, noodles, and of course beef and egg. Finally, finish strong with the pheasant, quail, and andouille gumbo from Prejean's. You can't go wrong with this dark roux and smoky depth. Everybody knows you don't start inside the fest, you start outside the tracks. Set the tone early by grabbing a Bloody Mary at La Uza's by the track or hit Seahorse Saloon if you're coming in from Gentilly. Once you're inside, you'll want to keep it cool. The WWOZ Mango Freeze is iconic for a reason. It's bright, refreshing, and pairs well with bubbles. You can always stay cool with AJ Snowballs, CC's, or Plum Street Snowballs because nothing hits like an icy treat under the hot Louisiana sun. Sip smart, find some shade, and keep it moving. Weekend 2 is stacked. On Thursday, catch Widespread Panic and Lettuce for Big Jam Energy. Friday brings Ziggy Marley, Lainey Wilson, and Amanda Shaw and the Q Guys. Take it easy on Saturday with the Eagles, Big Frida, and T-Pain. Sunday closes strong with Earth, Wind & Fire, Trombone Shorty, and Rebirth Brass Band. No better way to end the fest in our opinion. While you're there, don't just stay chopped. Take some time to explore the crafts, villages, and marketplaces. This is where you'll find local artists, culture bearers, and one-of-a-kind pieces you can't get anywhere else. And while you're at it, grab your Bayou Wear and this year's Jazz Fest poster, Streetcar Ramble, Satchmo at 125. It's a beautiful tribute to Louis Armstrong and the musicians carrying his legacy forward from John Baptiste to Trombone Shorty. For more information on where to eat, drink, and play this week at Jazz Fest, visit neworleans.com. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, April. And now, Positively New Orleans. When you think of New Orleans, you think of celebration. And nowhere is that more alive than in our incredible festivals and special events. From the vibrant energy of the just concluded French Quarter Festival to the world-renowned New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell, now underway at the historic fairgrounds, these events are more than just gatherings. They are the heartbeat of our city. French Quarter Fest, arguably one of the largest free music festivals in the country, brought hundreds of thousands of citizens and visitors into our historic streets over 4 days, generating hundreds of millions of dollars in economic impact, and showcasing the very best of our local musicians, chefs, and artisans. And then there's the Jazz Fest, an international icon of an event that draws visitors from around the globe, with an economic impact reaching as high as $500 million, and filling our hotels, restaurants, and music venues, and supporting thousands of jobs across our community. Headliners include the Eagles, Stevie Nicks, John Baptiste, Rod Stewart, Earth, Wind & Fire, and Irma Thomas, and so many other local artists and musicians who demonstrate why New Orleans is truly unique, unlike any other city, and also could be considered, this time of the year, the cultural center of the world. There, I said it. But what makes these festivals truly special isn't just the numbers, it's the people. It's the small business owner whose busiest days of the year come during festival season. I think of all the food vendors on display like Julie and Van's Vaucresson, a family steeped in our Creole delicacies. Since 1899, the Vaucresson family has produced their sausage products in the 7th Ward of New Orleans, and now share these delights with the world at Jazz Fest alongside so many others. And it's the hotel worker welcoming guests from around the world, and the local chef, the artist, the musician, the culture bearers, who take center stage and share the soul of New Orleans with everyone who visits. It's those artisans showcasing handmade pottery, mixed media, and fine art photography, jewelry, and leatherwork. It is the Louisiana Marketplace, the Congo Square African Marketplace, and the contemporary crafts. Festivals like the French Quarter Fest and Jazz Fest, and the over 130 festivals and events annually around the region, don't just drive our economy, they sustain our identity. They ensure that our traditions are not only preserved, but celebrated, shared, and passed on to the next generation. In New Orleans, festivals are not just events. They are who we are. Come visit and pass a good time with us. And that's Positively New Orleans. That's our show for this week. Thanks to our incredible guests and to all of you for watching and listening. And a special thanks to our sponsors, Blue Runner Foods, New Orleans & Company, our friends at Visit the North Shore, and their podcast, All the Waves. Go check it out. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for all of our new videos. We'll see you next week.